Welcome to Tiki Man and the Viking podcast. He is Tiki Man.
I am H.B. Burlow, the author of two historical crime fiction series, the Ark City Confidential Chronicles and the Wichita Chronicles. He, of course, is the Viking.
I am William Bryan Johnson, author of Hell to Pay, The Dark Cry of Aristed, and now out, Middle-Aged Man in a Trash Can.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm reading it, by the way. My wife has already read it. She
Awesome.
got dibs on it first, and I'll talk to you about that later. That's
you're probably going to go,
right?
Why are you so strange?
No, it validates why you're so strange, actually.
And we have a very special guest today.
We have a dear friend of ours today. Dianne McCartney was born in Canada and grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Since moving to the United States in 1985, she has lived in Kentucky, Texas, Florida, Colorado, and her current home of Bartlett, Tennessee. She has been married for over 40 years to her husband, Mitch, a retired research scientist. Their daughter, Colleen, lives nearby. Her previous career involved 20 years as a riding instructor and horse trainer. After retiring from that sport, she turned her attention back to writing, her other love. She used writing competitions, conferences, and writers' groups to educate herself in the craft. Judging writing contests is a frequent pastime of hers because it offers her the chance to help fellow writers on their journey. She also enjoys presenting seminars at conferences. Mixing humorous stories about a writer's life along with the principles of the craft is a combination that has worked well for her, and we'll talk more about that. Dianne's latest release is Where Evil Waits, Book 1 of the Lucas Cameron Trilogy. That novel, her other 12 books, and a few short stories are available on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and other leading retailers. She's a member of the Oklahoma Writers Federation, Inc., Sisters in Crime, Tornado Alley Sisters in Crime, the Rose Rock Writers, and the Oklahoma Romance Writers Guild. Dianne McCartney, our friend, joins us for this episode.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We've been dying to get to this process after speaking with you at OWFI. I do have a question right off the bat. I just finished reading Where Evil Waits. We'll talk about that more, but it's book 1 of the Lucas Cameron Trilogy.
Right.
And I write series. We had a comment by Jim Butcher, who just interviewed, who talked about things should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, not just books, but series. Now, I'm writing a series right now, and I'm trying to figure out how far it should go. And you started off with the Lucas Cameron Trilogy. Talk to us about a series that has a definitive beginning, middle, and end.
Well, I started out actually with a previous series called the Elijah Black series. It was a trilogy. And I know what you're talking about, knowing when to end, because 3 is perfect for me. I think longer would be more difficult because I have so many characters living in my head. It's hard to stay with them longer than that, truthfully.
My goodness.
So I think the thing about trilogy is a trilogy has to have an overarching story arc, right? The beginning is 25%, the middle is 50%, the end is 25%. So you have a nice, pretty tidy arc there.
Okay.
Most people don't realize in trilogies, you have to have an arc for the book, but you also have to have an overreaching arc for all 3 stories.
Okay.
And there's different ways you can do that. I think the way that I found suited me most is I tend, you always have your main characters, but I kind of shift the emphasis on characters from one book to another. So you're always seeing character growth. It just may not be with the same person necessarily.
Interesting. Okay.
And that works for me. I actually thought I would never write any kind of series. And until I came up with the idea for the first trilogy, that was I always planned to do standalones. And then I wrote that character and I liked him so much that I went, oh, now here's something that could have more.
Okay.
And it developed from there.
Did you outline all 3, or did you know where the arc was going to be when you started with Lucas Cameron?
I only outline one book at a time, but I do know where the others are going to go. I just keep it in my head until I work on each one.
Whoa.
How heavy do you outline when you outline?
Well, I am a definite combination person. I'm part pantser, part plotter. So what I do is, I don't know if you guys experience this as authors. in the beginning, there's always that huge rush of passion for the project. And you're just like, go, I'm ready. Let's go. Well, I ride that wave. Like, I think you're crazy to just stop and outline if you feel that. Go ahead and get that beginning down. So I get probably 7 or 8 chapters, short chapters down. And then I take a pause. When it starts slowing, the writing starts slowing down a bit, then I pause, go back, and do an outline. And it's not a super, some people love to do a very, very intricate outline. I don't find that very helpful to the creative process for me, for the way my brain works.
Right. Okay.
So I just do a simple chapter by chapter, say 10 lines per chapter, saying introduction of this character, first murder, very basic stuff, just to keep it organized in my head, because I know myself and I tend to put too much action to the front of the book. And so the outline helps me push it back so you have action all the way through.
Do you use any sort of plotting outline?
I really don't. I'm super casual about stuff like that. And I talk about this in my presentations a lot. You really have to understand how your brain works. Mm-hmm. Some people do extremely well with a very thorough outline, careful plotting, all that. And I am much better writing on the seat of my pants for a lot of it, and then going back and adding additional structure if I need it.
Yeah.
That's just the way my brain wants to work, and it would drive probably most analytical people crazy.
Right. Like your husband, of course.
Oh my gosh, he cannot understand why I write the way I do.
Yeah.
He'll always say, but, and I'll go, no, I can't do it. Because if you said, write 10 chapters, but leave out 4 and 5 because that's convenient, he would start to have a tick. Like Sheldon on Big Bang, he'd be like, his brain just can't work that way. But honestly, he's my beta reader. He's my only beta reader. And that's why I pick him, because he does not see the same things I do. So it's a really valuable point of view. Right. He sees things from a very object point of view. And I am all about the character and the action and that kind of stuff, which he doesn't know anything about. But he's a multi-published scientific writer. So he sees little tiny details that might escape me. Right. And that's really good for me.
That's a balance. That's a balance right there. Now, how open are you to your story changing if you're moderately outlining just for the sake of making sure that you know what to do in a chapter? You leave off and then you go to the next chapter. It's supposed to be this happens, and then you get to start to writing it. Have you changed your outline at all because something occurred to you?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. And that's why when I say I'm a soft outliner, because I just want to kind of have an idea of the structure and how to balance it out. But people kidnap my books all the time, and I always follow that because I find it's a great instinct. Like my, third book, The Road to Justice. I started out knowing who that hero was going to be, and within 20 pages, it had totally changed to another person who just hijacked the book and was a much stronger character. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? That is going to work better, And other authors, I see you nodding. So, other authors get that. If you tell that to a reader, they'll go, huh? What do you mean you're one of your characters kidnapped your book?
Right,
it's
exactly.
Kind of a bizarre concept, but
I am writing, of course, dark fantasy based on Norse sagas, so I kind of have a loose outline just from the saga itself. And I wrote one of my books last year and realized I have 3 characters. There's a little bit of a time shift needed to separate one. And so I backed one way off, and I'm writing his novel first. And that's what I've been writing. And I've gone back and went, oh, I'm missing this section. Ooh, I need to add this section. And then, it's kind of the serendipity of, ooh, that kind of fits better than maybe what's in the saga, or taking the saga and just slightly twisting it a little bit.
Yeah. I just think if you leave yourself open to those things, you will always have a stronger book, because those kind of things that draw you to something specifically are what will draw readers as well. So just trust the process. And I'm working with a young writer now. He's a science fiction writer, and he asked me to beta, and I should have warned him that my beta is way more serious than most people's beta readings.
Whoa.
I did actually say, these are all suggestions. I always say
Right,
this. I say,
right,
these are suggestions. This is your book. If
Right.
my suggestions don't make sense for you, don't do them. These are just suggestions, but he's new to the process, so he was thinking, he felt bad that, according to him, his manuscript was riddled with mistakes. And I laughed and I said, if you think this is riddled with errors, you just have no idea how bad it can get.
Yeah,
I
right.
said, this is really, really good. And I said, that I'm honest, too honest probably sometimes, but I'm honest to a fault, and I don't ever give somebody like pats on the back if they still have a huge amount of work to do.
Coddling
I said, all
doesn't
I'm
do
doing
anything.
is helping you package.
Right.
As long as you have the story, packaging is easy. It might be dreary work, and we've all been through that, slogging through what seems like endless edits sometimes. But that's what makes it really good, if you can just hang in there, hang in through all those edits.
Now, what I found with Where Evil Waits, I didn't see a lot of examples of description of Lucas Cameron, and yet I could see him. How do you accomplish that? A lot of people think you need to go 6'4" and blonde and sandy hair and describing everything, and yet it wasn't that. It wasn't a police lineup description, and yet I could still see him by virtue of his actions. What are your methods of creating character so that your readers can see them?
Oh, thank you. One of my big complaints in books is that when you have way too much description, and we've all read those books, we're enjoying the book, and all of a sudden there's 3 pages of unnecessary description. And anything you have to know should be there. Obviously, you have to have scene setting, you have to have all of those elements. But I won't ever say, he's 6'4" and he's got blue eyes and whatever, because to me that's very boring. But somehow I'll mix it into the action so that he's tall. You're going to know sooner or later. Have a good physical picture. But of course, what's more important with character is what's inside. The wrapping is of minor consequence. It's those, especially with cops, that sense of true character, that sense of wanting justice, and those things that are more interesting. So I try to layer in description very carefully.
Okay,
and
that's
and in a more minimal manner than some people do. And some people really love it, and some people are like, you need to fluff it up. And I'm like, ain't no fluffing happening here. So that's my style.
That's what I was really happy about. I mean, it was a clean read. It moved well, and enough in terms of it being a procedural that you got that element, but it moved. This would have been if they made it as a movie, it could have easily been a 90-minute movie, but it moved just directly, and that was important. The suspense and the tension was still there. The fact that you referred to the unsub, to use the Criminal Minds expression, as the killer. You just referred to him as the killer, without using any he, she, anything else from that standpoint. It was the killer. Made you wonder, a few red herrings. So it moves smoothly. We're dealing with a serial killer, folks. That's what the book is about. Where did the inspiration for this book come from? Where did you come up with the idea, if you can recall?
Well, I kind of fall in love with characters first, usually, and then I just kind of ask them what's their story. And I do love serial killer books. I do.
Okay.
And most people just don't understand how many serial killers there are in the world.
Oh yeah.
There's at least 50 in the United States, at least 50 all the time. So, that's why I say, look, hate to tell you guys, but there's more than one serial killer in the world. It's just people ask me this all the time. They say, "Oh, you're such a nice lady. Why on earth would you write books like that?" Which I think is hilarious. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think.
We will continue part 2 of the interview with Dianne McCartney in a couple weeks. Stay tuned and read a book. Tiki Man and the Viking Podcast brought to you by Rumination of Thunder Media. The following intro and outro music was used for this media project. The music Find Them by Alexander Nakrata. Free download from filmmusic.io. License Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International.